We bring in law enforcement and litigation expert Sunny Slaughter. Thank you, Sunny, for being here again today. The creation of this new Office of Gun Violence Prevention is one of the few moves that have been made on a national level, as you know, to try and combat gun violence. But do you think it's going to be impactful?
I think to the extent that it can, and Lisa, thank you for having me again today. I think to the extent that it can be impactful, with having more conversations about this, looking at the data which we already know exists, but then trying to come up with solutions in communities, it may have an effect that way. However, in actually moving the needle to get guns off the streets, that is a law enforcement presence and technique that is really going to be hard, because there is a lot that comes with trying to really regulate gun ownership and gun violence when people, it's just hard to determine who has guns, who doesn't have guns, if they don't go through a process.
Yeah, that's the missing piece to the puzzle. You're right. Recently, we've seen more action being taken on local and state levels, like New Mexico's governor declaring gun violence a public health emergency. Leaders in law enforcement have spoken out against loosening gun laws in states like Georgia. Do you think that will be very impactful in the years and weeks to come, from the bottom up from the top?
Well, see, when we have the loosening of gun laws, what happens is you don't have to go through those checks and balances that you really need to determine who should have guns and who shouldn't have guns. Alabama also has the same type of looseness with guns, where you don't necessarily need a background check and you can have access to guns. But that still does not regulate those that have guns, who would have guns anyway, and who are more likely ready and available to commit these type of crimes. So, the gun laws allow us to know who has guns and to really target their behaviors and practices. But because guns are so easily to obtain, you can't manage what you don't know about. Mm-hmm. So the methodology and what law enforcement has to do really stems around conducting these busts to do buyback programs and different things like that. But that still does not measure the amount of illegal guns that operate and move about across the country.
How is the rise in gun violence impacting law enforcement on a local level?
It's a very tenuous behavior, because in every call and in every situation, they don't know what they are going to walk into. And the amount of guns on the streets these days is just really astronomical. And when you think about COVID isolation, hate crimes, and extremist ideology, and how these mass shootings have been allowed to play out on social media platforms, that only adds another layer of what law enforcement have to contend with when you think about gun prevention, gun intervention, and gun remedies and solutions.
500 mass shootings in 2023 already. I mean, the numbers tell the story, don't they? Law enforcement and litigation expert Sunny Slaughter, thank you so much for your time again and your insight. We always appreciate you.
Thank you, Lisa.